Love Island just dropped the bomb that has the entire internet in chaos. Beyond the Villa Season 2 is happening, the cast list is out, and people are losing their minds for all the wrong reasons. Nic and Olandria, the couple everyone actually wants to see, are nowhere on that list. Taylor's missing too. The whole Love Island USA Season 7 crew that made the show worth watching? Gone. And when you look at who they picked instead, you'll understand why fans are calling this the biggest mistake Love Island has ever made. Nicolandria just pulled a power move that proves they're playing a completely different game now, and what happened behind the scenes is way more interesting than you think. Alright, before we get into why Nic and Olandria basically said thanks but no thanks to Love Island, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. I promise the algorithm won't bite, and honestly, it's less dramatic than what we're about to discuss. Plus, you'll need to be subscribed for when Nicolandria inevitably takes over Hollywood, and I'm here to cover every single moment of it. So let's talk about this train wreck of a cast announcement. Love Island Beyond the Villa Season 2 is officially happening in 2026, and they just revealed who's coming back. We've got Amaya and Brian, Andrea, Bella, Chris Taylor and Clark, Coco, Grayson, Hannah, Iris, Jeremiah, Pepe, and TJ. Now, if you're reading those names and thinking, wait, who are half these people? You're not alone. The internet immediately started roasting this lineup harder than anything we've seen in a while. People are calling it Casa Amor Beyond the Villa because, apparently, they just grabbed whoever was available from the Casa Amor cast and called it a day. Others are begging for Love Island Games Beyond the Villa instead, or literally anything else that doesn't involve this particular group. The problem isn't necessarily that these people are bad. The problem is that they're not the ones who made Season 7 legendary. They're not the ones who had millions of people glued to their screens every single night. They're not the ones who broke the internet with every single move they made. And most importantly, they're not Nicolandria. The couple that actually carried that entire season on their backs is missing, and fans are not having it. The other fan favorite couple that's missing? That would be Shalace, and people are equally confused about why they're not on the list either. But for this video, we're focusing on the power couple that just proved they're way too big for reality TV now.
But there's one person who definitely isn't coming back, and honestly, we all know why. Huda's entire career got destroyed in literally the blink of an eye when she decided racism was somehow funny. Whatever chances she might have had at being on Beyond the Villa vanished the second that scandal hit. Love Island has a zero-tolerance policy for that kind of behavior, and rightfully so. Even if Huda wanted to come back, which who knows if she does, there's absolutely no way they would invite her after everything that went down. That bridge isn't just burned, it's completely demolished. So while we can speculate all day about whether other cast members turned down the invitation or weren't invited, with Huda, it's pretty clear-cut. She's done. Now let's talk about the moment that had everyone spiraling. During one of his TikTok lives, someone asked Nic directly about Beyond the Villa. His response was basically the definition of cryptic. He said, "Do I do Beyond the Villa? Theoretically. Hypothetically. All right, I think I got my answer. Can't say it, though." He never actually said yes or no, which of course sent everyone into detective mode trying to figure out what he meant. Some fans held on to hope that maybe he was leaving the door open, that perhaps they'd change their minds later. But looking back at that response now, knowing they're not on the cast list, it's pretty clear-cut what he was really saying. He knew they weren't doing it, but he couldn't officially announce it yet. That little smile and hesitation, that was him trying not to spill the beans before Love Island made their official announcement. He was protecting the show's moment while also being honest with his fans that it probably wasn't happening.
So why would they turn it down? Let's get into the real reasons, and trust me, they're smarter than you might think. First up, brand control and drama fatigue. Reality TV is literally built on drama. That's the entire foundation. Producers need conflict, arguments, messy situations, and controversial moments to keep viewers coming back. And here's the thing, they will edit footage however they need to in order to create that drama. Cast members usually don't get consulted before episodes air. They don't get to approve how they're portrayed. One conversation can be chopped up and rearranged to make it look completely different from what actually happened. A facial expression can be inserted at the wrong moment to make someone look shady when they weren't. Nic and Olandria have spent months carefully building their brands outside the villa. They've maintained this positive, drama-free image that's made them incredibly marketable. They're seen as the stable couple, the goals couple, the couple that actually made it work. Going back on another reality show could either strengthen that brand or completely destroy it, and they'd have zero control over which one happens. In today's social media climate, one tiny mistake can end your entire career. We've seen it happen over and over again. Someone says the wrong thing, it gets clipped, goes viral, and suddenly they're canceled. Brands drop them, opportunities disappear, and the reputation is ruined. Why would Nic and Olandria risk everything they've built for a show that they don't even need anymore? It's actually the smartest business decision they could make. Skip the potential drama, keep control of their narrative, and continue building their empire on their own terms.
And let's be completely honest here. Nic and Olandria don't need Love Island anymore. They're one of the biggest couples, if not the biggest couple, to ever come out of Love Island USA. They've turned their fame into something way more substantial than just reality TV clout. At this point, them being absent from Beyond the Villa is actually doing the show a favor, because their names are still generating buzz and attracting attention to the announcement. They're bigger than the program now, and there's proof of this everywhere you look. Even major media publications are using Nic and Olandria to get attention and clicks. Perfect example. I was scrolling through TikTok the other day and saw this post from Cosmopolitan talking about everything that happened in pop culture that week. They weren't just covering reality TV. They were talking about Kim Kardashian, Kendrick Lamar, Nicole Kidman, massive A-list celebrities. And guess whose picture they used as the cover image? Nic and Olandria. Not only that, but they used Nic and Olandria's photo to represent the entire Love Island franchise when mentioning that Season 8 casting was open. Think about that for a second. A major publication like Cosmopolitan is putting Nic and Olandria on the same level as some of the biggest names in entertainment. They're using this couple to attract readers and get engagement because they know Nic and Olandria have that kind of pull now. That's not reality TV star status anymore. That's legitimate celebrity influence.
When you really look at the Beyond the Villa cast, it becomes even more obvious why they said no. Most of these people are still trying to break through and become big. They missed their moment during their original season, and now they're hoping Beyond the Villa gives them another shot at fame. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's just not where Nic and Olandria are anymore. They already had their breakthrough. They already became massive. They're past the point of needing a reality show to boost their profiles. If anything, going back would be a step backward for them. They've moved into a completely different tier of fame, and returning to reality TV would almost be like admitting they couldn't make it in the mainstream entertainment world. But they're proving every single day that they absolutely can. Hold up real quick. If you're still watching and enjoying this deep dive into why Nic and Olandria is basically too powerful for reality TV now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I know. Everyone asks you to subscribe, but think of it this way. When Nic and Olandria eventually get their own Netflix series or whatever massive project they're definitely going to land, you'll want to be here for my full breakdown. Plus, subscribing is free and takes like 2 seconds, which is less time than it takes Olandria to break the internet with a single post.
Another major factor in their decision, they want to be seen as mainstream celebrities, not just reality TV stars. There's a big difference between those two labels, and they're actively working to cross that line. If they kept appearing on reality shows, they'd stay boxed into that reality TV category forever. The path to mainstream celebrity status is everywhere. They've been showing up at red carpets for major events, not just Love Island-related stuff. They're getting invited to industry parties and premieres. They're being recognized as influential figures in entertainment, not just as people who are on a dating show. Olandria walked in New York Fashion Week, which is a massive deal. That's not something they typically invite reality TV stars to do. That's reserved for models, celebrities, and people with serious fashion influence. She's landed partnerships with major brands like Sweetgreen and NYX. These aren't small influencer deals. These are legitimate brand partnerships with companies that are very selective about who they work with. They're receiving awards and recognition for their influence and impact, which we'll get to in just a minute because Olandria just received another major honor. Another major factor in their decision? They want to be seen as mainstream celebrities, not just reality TV stars. There's a big difference between those two labels, and they're actively working to cross that line. If they kept appearing on reality shows, they'd stay boxed into that reality TV category forever. The path to mainstream celebrity status is everywhere. They've been showing up at red carpets for major events, not just Love Island-related stuff. They're getting invited to industry parties and premieres. They're being recognized as influential figures in entertainment, not just as people who are on a dating show. Olandria walked in New York Fashion Week, which is a massive deal. That's not something they typically invite reality TV stars to do. That's reserved for models, celebrities, and people with serious fashion influence. She's landed partnerships with major brands like Sweetgreen and Nic's. These aren't small influencer deals. These are legitimate brand partnerships with companies that are very selective about who they work with. They're receiving awards and recognition for their influence and impact, which we'll get to in just a minute because Olandria just received another major honor.
And then there was that moment with Brandon Redwood that completely shut down the internet. When those photos dropped, social media went absolutely crazy. The engagement was insane. That's the kind of cultural moment that transcends reality TV. That's mainstream celebrity behavior. That's the kind of thing that gets covered by entertainment news outlets, not just reality TV recap accounts. Nic and Olandria are creating these moments consistently now, and each one proves they're operating at a different level. They've famously been manifesting their success, too. Olandria has tweeted about her life goals and somehow managed to check off basically every single one of them so far. She's inspiring an entire generation to write down their dreams, believe in manifestation, and go after what they want, regardless of what anyone else thinks. That influence is powerful, and it extends way beyond Love Island's audience. The hate and negativity they faced, especially directed at Olandria, has been intense. Reality dating shows have historically been brutal to confident, self-assured women who know their worth. Olandria became no exception to that unfortunate pattern. But the way she's risen above all the noise, all the haters, and all the blatant negativity has become a masterclass in grace and resilience. She's shown that no matter what people throw at her, she's going to keep winning and keep succeeding. That's not just reality TV personality behavior. That's legitimate role model status. And that kind of positive influence is exactly why they'd want to avoid going back into a drama-filled reality TV environment where they could be portrayed negatively or get pulled into unnecessary conflict.
Speaking of awards and recognition, let's talk about what just happened at the Fortunes and Forks Gala. Olandria received the Visibility with Vision Award, which is a huge honor. Both she and Nic attended the event, and they gave fans so much incredible content from the night. But the absolute best moment was the introduction speech that was given before Olandria accepted her award. Let me break down what was said, because it perfectly captures why this couple is so much bigger than reality TV now. The speech started by acknowledging that millions of people tuned in to Love Island USA this past summer for what became the most talked about season of the show. It mentioned how Olandria was one of the first Islanders to appear on screen, how she immediately became a fan favorite, and how her journey on the show captivated audiences. But then it got real. The speech acknowledged the harsh reality that confident, self-assured women on these shows face intense scrutiny and negativity. It talked about how Olandria became no exception to that truth, but how she's risen above all of it with grace and resilience. The speech called her rise above the hate a masterclass in how to handle adversity.
Then came the receipts. The speech laid out everything Olandria has accomplished in just 6 months since leaving the villa. Walking New York Fashion Week, landing partnerships with Sweetgreen and Nic's, shutting down the internet with Brandon Redwood. The introduction called her walking, living proof that no matter how many weapons get formed against her, they're not going to prosper. That line hit hard because it's true. Despite everything thrown her way, she's continued to win and succeed at levels most people only dream about. The speech also highlighted how Olandria has famously tweeted about her life goals and somehow managed to check off almost every single one. She's inspired a whole new generation to manifest their dreams, go after what they want, and remain authentic despite people trying to dim their light. And then came my favorite part of the introduction. The speaker said, and I quote, "It also does not hurt that her face belongs in a museum. The waist. There's a reason I wore this. I said, don't be upset. Sunglasses around the waist, okay? I can stop traffic." That moment had everyone laughing and cheering because it's absolutely true. Olandria is stunning. She knows it, and she's unapologetic about it. That confidence is part of what makes her so magnetic and influential. The speech ended by presenting Olandria as an inspiration to all, calling her our sweetheart, our homegirl in our heads. That's the kind of introduction that legitimate celebrities get, not reality TV contestants trying to stay relevant.
The whole night showed that Nic and Olandria have successfully made the transition from reality TV couple to influential public figures. They're being honored for their impact, their resilience, and their positive influence. They're being celebrated by legitimate organizations and publications. They're being recognized alongside established celebrities and public figures. That's exactly the kind of reputation and status that would be risked by going back on a drama-filled reality show, where one bad edit could damage everything they've built. So when you look at all these factors together, it becomes crystal clear why they turned down Beyond the Villa. They're protecting their brand. They're avoiding unnecessary drama and risk. They're focusing on bigger opportunities. They're transitioning into mainstream celebrity status. They don't need Love Island for exposure or relevance anymore. If anything, Love Island needs them more than they need it, which is probably the most powerful position they could be in. By saying no to Beyond the Villa, they're showing that they're in control of their narrative and their career path. They're making strategic decisions based on long-term success rather than short-term attention.
Most of their fans completely understand and support this decision. People recognize that Nic and Olandria have outgrown reality TV. They see that this couple has something special that extends way beyond being on a dating show. The fan base they've built is loyal and supportive because Nic and Olandria have been authentic and genuine throughout their entire journey. They haven't tried to be something they're not. They haven't manufactured drama for attention. They've just been themselves, loved each other openly, and worked hard to build something meaningful. That authenticity is rare in the reality TV world, and it's a big part of why they've been able to successfully transition into bigger things. Beyond the Villa is going to happen without them, and honestly, it's probably going to struggle because of it. The cast they announced isn't generating excitement. People aren't counting down the days until it premieres. The buzz is negative rather than positive. Meanwhile, Nic and Olandria are out here landing brand deals, walking red carpets, receiving awards, and building their empire. They're creating content on their own terms, controlling their own narrative, and succeeding at a level that most reality TV stars never reach. They're proving that you can turn reality TV fame into lasting success if you're strategic, authentic, and willing to make smart business decisions even when they might disappoint some fans in the short term.
The reality TV landscape is brutal. For every success story like Nicolandria, there are dozens of people who had their 15 minutes of fame and then disappeared. The ones who make it long-term are the ones who recognize when it's time to step away from the platform that made them famous and branch into something bigger. Nic and Olandria are making that move right now, and they're doing it successfully. They're not desperate for screen time. They're not clinging to their reality TV past. They're confidently moving forward into their future, and that future looks incredibly bright. All right, we've covered everything from the disasters beyond the Villa cast announcement to why Nicolandria made the absolute right call by saying no. If you've made it this far in the video, you're clearly invested in this couple's success. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button one more time. Just kidding, you can only subscribe once, but if you haven't yet, now's the time.
Think of it as supporting good decision-making and people who actually know how to build a lasting career. Plus, the comment section is always wild on these videos, and you'll want to be part of that conversation.
What do you think about Nicolandria turning down Beyond the Villa? Do you think they made the right move, or would you have loved to see them back on reality TV? Are you disappointed with the cast the Love Island announced, or are you willing to give them a chance? And most importantly, what do you think is next for Nic and Olandria? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you're thinking. This couple has such a passionate fan base, and the discussions around their decisions are always interesting. As we wrap this up, it's worth noting that Nicolandria's journey represents something bigger than just one couple from one reality TV show. They're showing what's possible when you're authentic, strategic, and willing to take risks on yourself. They're proving that reality TV can be a launching pad rather than a destination. They're demonstrating that you can maintain your dignity and your values while still being successful in the entertainment industry. And most importantly, they're inspiring people to believe in themselves, manifest their dreams, and not let anyone dim their light. That's the kind of impact that lasts way longer than any reality TV show ever could.
So, while Love Island Beyond the Villa Season 2 moves forward without them, Nic and Olandria will be out here living their best lives, making power moves, and continuing to build their empire. They said no to reality TV drama, and yes to controlling their own destiny. And honestly, that's the most Love Island winner behavior possible. They won the show, they won in love, and now they're winning at life. What more could you ask for? Thanks for watching, and make sure you stay tuned because something tells me Nicolandria's story is just getting started. The best is definitely still to come, and you're going to want to be here for all of it. Peace out, and remember, sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to walk away from what made you famous and step into something even bigger.